Welcome back to another episode of the Duncan White NBA podcast. This is Duncan White bringing you another video to the TheSlamDuncan YouTube channel. Make sure you leave this video a like, subscribe to my channel for more NBA content. Also follow me on Twitter at Duncan_White14 for more analysis, updates, news, and stuff like that. So, sorry for not uploading for this past week. I've been kind of busy, but in this latest episode of my podcast, I just kind of want to check in on the league, basically. I do want to kind of look at some of the trades potentially that some teams can make at the trade deadline. I will be talking a little bit about the All-Stars, but I will be making a specific video later on about who my All-Stars are. And then obviously I'll make another video like right before the All-Stars are released to finalize who my All-Stars are. I do want to talk about the Bulls a little bit as usual. I have my usual Bulls segment. Jim Boylen got an extension today. I kind of want to talk about that. And I do want to look into the Celtics and their struggles and both conferences and like how teams are kind of looking right now. So let's dive right into it. But the first thing I do want to talk about is this. I don't know if you could tell, I'm a bit upset. I just finished watching the Bulls Jazz game, and Bulls took an L. That's fine. I'm not really too concerned about that. My thing is this: at the end of the game, Zach LaVine was shooting a free throw. The game's already over, basically. But Zach shot his second of two free throws at the line, and Wendell Carter Jr. was, just trying to, get the rebound if he missed. So he was getting boxed out by Rudy Gobert, and then Joe Ingles was, grabbing his arm. And I know, initially it looked like Wendell, kind of elbowed him, but that was really just, his box-out move. And it was barely anything, and then he kind of just went like this to, get off, get Ingles' arm off of him, who Ingles was complaining to the officials all game. I was getting sick of him. But I was just they call a hostile act on Wendell Carter Jr. and they give him a technical foul. I'm like, are you serious right now? I could not believe my eyes and I was just appalled. I could not believe that our league has now turned into that. It really made me upset. So basically, though, I'm just saying that recently the officials have not been very good. I've been very upset with the officiating, especially down the stretch of games. It's been horrible. Obviously, the one, I'm gonna name a couple instances that need to be fixed right now. There are bang plays that I can understand. Yeah, you can miss that, but there are just some calls that I'm just why are you making this type of call? And especially a very important game, in a very important game or a very important situation. It's insane to me that these officials right now are doing this type of stuff. Number one is obviously the Houston Rockets versus the Golden State Warriors game when Kevin Durant was clearly out of bounds and he saved the ball and he threw it back in. It didn't call out of bounds, and then Curry hit a two-pointer, but the Rockets did end up winning that game. But my goodness, the Rockets saved the league that game. If the Rockets lost that game, there would have been a humongous uproar between the NBA community and probably a lot of the other teams, because it basically was just the officials giving the Warriors the game, and the Warriors are already dominating this league. So that itself was you cannot miss that call. I don't care if you're just a starting out official or whatever. You have to make that call. And that official who was standing right there watching that play, I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know if he was doing the Bird Box challenge just at that very moment. I don't know if he had something in his eye or if he was thinking about if he left the stove on at his home. But whatever it was, I'm like, you have to be fired on the spot, which I know it's exaggeration, but my goodness, you cannot miss that call. It's just a given. You can't miss it. A game I want to talk about later in this, the Spurs and Thunder double overtime game, which was a fantastic game. That's probably the best game of the year, in my opinion. But great game to watch. I loved every minute of it. But in the second overtime, Paul George got a technical foul because he thought he got fouled when he drove to the lane and made the shot. But I thought he got slapped in the face, but they called nothing, and he was just like, hey, like, he hit me, and then they give him a tech. Even Steph Curry went on Instagram or Twitter, like, or whatever social media it was, later and said, it's like, no, like, and it's like, that's horrible, and it is horrible. You don't, in a double overtime, that was in double overtime, by the way, the technical foul. Like, you cannot call a technical foul in a double overtime game, especially on a superstar. Like, that's very important, and every single point counts. So, you can't give him a tech. And I cannot believe that these officials are just, they have no patience at all. Like, everyone complains. Everybody complains. I guarantee you, if that was LeBron, if he asked for that, that's not a tech. I guarantee you that. So that really made me upset. And then, obviously, I talked about the issue today with Wendell Carter Jr., which Wendell is already given, like, he's already getting crap from the officials for getting, like, he always gets called for fouls that are not fouls on him because he's just a rookie, and, like, you know, I kind of expected it because he's a shot blocker. But man, Wendell cannot do anything on that court right now because the officials just take away his game. And the Bulls Warriors game that was on Friday night, I only watched a little bit of it because I kind of figured the Bulls were going to lose that game anyway. But the parts that I did watch, it was just, the officials just were taking over the game. And I'm like, why can't we have the players decide the game? Isn't that how it's supposed to be? And the officials were just on everybody. And they called a technical foul on Wendell Carter Jr. for saying very little, but then Draymond Green is screaming at them when he gets called for a foul, and then he gets taken out of the game, and he's still screaming on them at the bench, and he doesn't get called for a tech. I'm like, how is that fair? Wendell barely says 2 words to you, doesn't say a curse word to you, but then Draymond's screaming in your face and screaming all the way on the other side of the court, 94 feet away from you. You can still hear him, but you don't give him a tech. And I get it, they're the champions, but, like, come on. Everyone needs to be held accountable in like a similar way. But no, apparently Draymond Green could do whatever the heck he wants. They were yelling at Jim Boylen. Like, Tony Brothers told Jim Boylen twice to go sit down because Jim Boylen was saying, like, Wendell was frustrated. Let him play it out. And then Tony Brothers like, go sit down, be quiet. I'm like, my goodness, what the officials don't tolerate anything at this point. And it drives me insane. And then now, like, basically what I'm trying to tell you is that this league is soft, and, you know, I've never seen more soft before. It's very upsetting to me. I was at a high school basketball game Friday night, and there was more contact in that game than I think in an NBA game, and there were less fouls. Like, there was not a lot of fouls in that game. I thought there was one bad call. But in high school, apparently you can actually guard people. But in NBA, you can't lay a finger on anybody. Like today, it was the Spurs and Thunder again, but this time they're playing OKC. Then a shooter barely touched Marco Bellinelli, but because he was leaning on a three-point shot, it looked like he got hit by Schroeder, and they called a three-point shot foul on Schroeder. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like, what is Schroeder supposed to do? Just let him take a wide open uncontested three? Because that's apparently what the officials are saying. Like, you cannot do anything. And Marco Bellinelli, like, you know, great shooter. I loved him when he was on the Bulls, but he was already, like, leaning, and then Schroeder barely touches him. It was more the fact that Marco kind of hit him. Like, Marco kind of leaned his foot into him, and then he fell. So it's like, oh, foul on Schroeder. I'm like, what? Can the players decide this game? Can we allow players to actually touch another player? Like, what's the point of defense? Where did all the defense go? And I'm not trying to blame Adam Silver for this, but ever since he's taken over this league, and, like, I think Adam Silver's done a great job as commissioner, but if you think about it, ever since he's taken over this league has gotten more and more soft. The officials are really getting onto people about hand checking. They are not allowing any contact whatsoever on the perimeter, especially in the pick and roll. You cannot hit a three-point shooter at all whatsoever. I mean, I understand if you get under him and he lands under your foot. That makes a lot of sense to me. If anything, it should be a flagrant, especially if it's intentional. But you cannot, like, it. I thought before that if you go like, if the shooter's going like this after they foul through and you hit their hand, they call that the high five, like the high five. That used to be legal. Like before, if the shooter fouled through, the ball's already released, and then the defender comes in and touches their hand like this. That used to be legal. You would not be called for a foul. And now it's like, if you barely even touch whoever, if you lay a finger, if after they shoot it, if you go like this, it's immediately a foul call. I can't stand that right now. And the fouls are just being called at an irate, like, it's horrible. And if you look at James Harden, he's getting like 18 free throws a night, which I want to talk, I guess I kind of want to talk about him a little bit, but I'm sick and tired of the officials basically deciding the game and making horrible calls that should never be called. You know, there are bang plays that I'm like, yeah, that's fine. If you miss it, I understand. It's a bang play. But there are some of these calls, especially techs, that I'm like, these are unnecessary. You cannot call that in this situation. You're giving a team like a harder chance to win the game. Like a technical foul is 1 point, especially in like a double overtime game. That's going to be very critical. So I just think recently the officials have really been bad. I've not been a fan of the officiating in the NBA and the NFL, but it's been very bad in my opinion. I hope it gets better after the All-Star break because it needs to. I want more physicality. I want to see more defense. Like, I don't want to see an All-Star game, you know, before they actually started trying last year. But, you know, remember in the All-Star game, like, it's like no one really tried as everyone played offense, you know, just take a bunch of threes, bunch of dunks, you know. It get to like 196 to like 180 something at the end of the game. I don't want to see that every single night. But basically, the league is making it that you cannot play defense whatsoever. So go ahead and shoot however many threes. We want to see a bunch of offense. I mean, I don't want to see that, though. You're taking away half the game. Defense is half of the game. You cannot take that part away. So when it comes playoff time, I don't want to be seeing James Harden getting 20 free throws in a single game because of the fact that someone kind of barely touched him or someone touched his beard. Like, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see a foul being called on someone because they touched their beard. Like, touch his beard. Like, come on. If it's small contact, let it go. Especially in the playoffs when it should be more physical. The games should be slower. The scores should be lower. It's hard for me sometimes to watch NBA games because these officials are doing a horrible job sometimes. And I'm a big fan of defense. Like, if you know me, when I play basketball, you know, I'm not that very good offensively, so, you know, you're probably thinking, well, no wonder why you're biased towards defense. But, you know, I know my role. But, man, like, defense is half of this game. You have to play both sides of the ball. But the league is getting such an advantage to the offensive side that it drives me insane. Like, there's reasons why now players coming into the league, they don't know how to play defense because this league is about 3-point shooting and offense. It's not about defense anymore. So, yeah, like, I don't know. I just want to see more physicality. It's very upsetting to me right now how this league is so soft. But I hope it gets better. I think at some point it's going to get addressed. Like, this, it's just, I don't want to see 144 points a night by some team that's destroying another team. Like, that's just not good. That doesn't give good ratings. Like, maybe it does, but I don't want to watch that. As a legit NBA fan and like an analyst, what in some cases, like, I don't want to watch that. That's boring to me. I don't want to see a 30-point blowout. I want to see competitiveness. I want to see both teams in the game. I want to see both teams engaged. I don't want to see a 40-point blowout. I don't want to see one team dominate another team and score 144 points. That's not fun to watch. And it's because of the officiating that a team is allowed to do that. Because you can't defend them. Moving on. very quickly, the double overtime game between the Spurs and Thunder, I thought it was a fantastic game. The Spurs shot lights out from 3-point range. I was very shocked. I thought both teams just put it out there that night. It was great game to watch. LaMarcus Aldridge had a career high game. The Thunder, let me tell you, man, the Thunder, I was shocked that they were still in it after the Spurs hit their first 11 threes. And they were only down 7. I was like, wow. I mean, the Thunder, great job. Like, the Spurs are shooting lights out from 3-point range, and you're still in this game. And I thought the Thunder actually really should have won that game, but the stupid calls in double overtime were just horrible. And not to mention the fact that Steven Adams got hurt, and Nerlens Noel is out with concussion, so they had no one to guard LaMarcus Aldridge after Steven Adams went out. But good game. That was a great game because both teams played both sides of the ball, and it was good. Just a lot of competitiveness. There was just you have Russ on the court, and you already know how competitive he is, and then not to mention then you put in Paul George, who's a two-way player. LaMarcus Aldridge is an old school type of player, and I love seeing that because he's those types of players are non-existent. He didn't take a three. He did not take one single three and got 56 points. That's insane, and I want to see more of that. See, it shows though that you can score 50 points without a 3-point shot, and I don't know why the league is still you gotta be taking threes. You gotta be taking threes. Now LaMarcus, he destroyed the Thunder via mid-range and post-ups. DeMar DeRozan struggled, but he was still effective, and he didn't make a three either. So, yeah. James Harden. Obviously, if you've been watching my videos on this channel, you know that I kind of called out James Harden, especially when Chris Paul went down. I'm like, when are we gonna hold the MVP accountable? The reigning MVP has to be held accountable at some point. Because the Rockets were struggling, their defense was atrocious, but everyone was saying Trevor Ariza and Luka Baamute, that's the reason why they're losing, because their defense is horrible, because you lost your two best defenders. Yeah, it's fair you lost your two best defenders, but at the same time, you have the MVP. You have the most valuable player from last year. So why aren't you winning games? That's not on the fact that you lost players. You didn't lose your MVP, did you? You lost Trevor Ariza and Baamute, who are good defenders. I mean, I think Trevor Ariza was critical, but I'm not going to say that losing him, you are all of a sudden one of the worst teams. So James Harden finally responded, and now he's passed T-Mac for consecutive 30-point games. Have I enjoyed watching it? I'm going to actually say no. Everyone's really talking about James Harden, how he's on this historic stretch, which he is, and I give him credit. But man, it's the officials and him are they have something going. It's either he's paying them or what, or something. I cannot believe it. He gets there was a stat one time that says that John Wall had the same amount of drives as James Harden per game, but yet John Wall shot half as many free throws. That's insane to me. Why are we rewarding flopping? Because James Harden remember with James Harden, it's just dribble, and then he'll try to get to the lane, he'll flop, he'll flail, and then he'll get the foul call, or it's a step back 3-point shot, which then he'll look like someone hit him, so then he'll flail, and then he'll get the 3-point shot foul. Pick and roll, someone's on his hip or whatever, he'll push into him and then flail, foul. It's great. I understand Harden, you're getting 40 points per game, but you're not actually scoring. You're getting it all via free throws, which you're really not getting fouled in a lot of situations. Rockets have been winning, so I give them credit. But here's the thing. I don't think James Harden can keep up this pace. I think Chris Paul is really starting to decline. And come playoff time, the way the Rockets play with their isolation, dribble, make a move, 5 seconds left in the shot clock, hopefully get the foul call with James Harden. It's not gonna work in the playoffs. I just can't see it working. I know they beat the Oklahoma City Thunder on Christmas Day, but my God, that was I thought that was a bogus game because of one, foul calls, but two was just the Rockets were hitting 3-point shots left and right, and I'm like, all right, you know what? Good, you had a great game, but if you're living and dying by the 3-point shot in a 7-game series, not gonna happen. I don't see you guys winning. I'm glad the Rockets are back, but they beat the Warriors, but again, that was, I don't think I don't think they're gonna be beating the Warriors come playoff time. But it's Rockets, they're back, but it's I don't see them going anywhere like the Western Conference Finals like last season. Um, I do want to talk about just some ideas for teams to go make some trades maybe. So a question was kind of asked by Charles Barkley on Inside the NBA. Looking at the Western Conference teams, or really just like any like the playoff teams, who's like the team that needs to make a move for them to be either relevant or a contender? Because you're looking obviously in the Western Conference, you have there are 14 teams who can all make the playoffs. I'm not sure who's at the bottom of. I'm not sure who's at number 14. It's probably like Memphis. I thought it was Dallas, but I know they moved up. But it's like a 9.5 game difference between 1 through 14 in the West. And, any of those teams can still make the playoffs. I think 1 through 14, every single team is deserving of making the playoffs, except for the Phoenix Suns, obviously, down at 15. But there's one team that like I think needs to kind of make a move for them to be able to get into the playoffs. I think it's going to be Utah. If you look at the 3 Rookie of the Year candidates from last year, Ben Simmons, Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, I think they've all basically done the same thing they did last year. If there's anyone that has improved the most, it's been Tatum because he was kind of he was number 3, so he didn't do as much. Ben Simmons is legit just Ben Simmons from last year. Donovan Mitchell, I thought he'd make a jump this season. He didn't, so... But, I mean, I still think he could make a really big jump to being a superstar. But, man, Donovan Mitchell needs a point guard that's consistent. The Jazz ran Donovan Mitchell at point guard tonight against the Bulls, which, I think you can do that with Mitchell. I think he could run the point, but not for an entire game. I think you run Mitchell at point, maybe like leading the second unit or stuff like that, but I don't want Mitchell running the point constantly because I think that's going to wear out on him. I think it actually takes a toll on him because he plays both sides of the ball. But what the Jazz really need is just a consistent point guard. Ricky Rubio is a good point guard, but he's just so inconsistent that I'm like, man, if you could do that every single night, Rubio, put up 14 and 7, then this Jazz team is taking it to the next level. But he is so inconsistent with his, not just his 3-point shot, but his jump shot in general. Like, sometimes he can't make a shot from 10 feet. Like, I'm like, man, you have to hit that. Whether it's a floater or not, like, just, you have to hit that shot. And because the offense is basically centered around Mitchell for the Jazz, pick and roll with him, like, he needs a point guard that can, set up the offense very well and make sure guys are in their sets so he can excel at just scoring the ball. So I don't know what the Jazz can really go out and do. I mean, they're kind of stuck with their cap situation, but if they just can get a solid, consistent point guard, I'm not asking for a star point guard, no, but just a consistent point guard, then I think they take the next level, or take it to the next level. And then Oklahoma City Thunder, I think they're already contenders. I've been saying that they're the second best team in the West. I know Denver fans will say something against that. I think Denver is going to be good, but I unfortunately don't think they're going to be very good in the playoffs, but I'll get into that in a sec. But Oklahoma City, they are one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the league. Westbrook is a cause of that. He's having the worst shooting year of his career, basically, except I think his sophomore year. Dennis Schroeder, he's a good mid-range shot, good finisher in the paint, but he shoots only like 31% from 3. Your really only good three-point shooter is Paul George, and then Jeremy Grant is decent. Alex Abrines has just been in and out of the lineup and kind of inconsistent this season. And Patrick Patterson has been a shell of himself. So they do need another shooter. And whether it's a 3-and-D guy, I mean, I think their length already helps them enough defensively. Russell Westbrook is having one of his best defensive seasons of his career, which he's always capable of doing. And then obviously we're talking about Paul George and MVP talk. Steven Adams is already a great defender, and Jeremy Grant is one of the most athletic defenders I've ever seen. So they're going to be fine defensively. But if they could just find another shooter that could just knock down threes consistently, that helps everybody on that team. Whether it's Adams, going to the rim or in the post, he has more space to operate. Westbrook driving into the lane, Paul George operating at the top of the key. It just opens up so much more opportunities for everybody on the court. So if the Thunder could find a shooter, and if better, like a 3-and-D guy, then that just makes them take another jump. And I already think they're going to be in the Western Conference Finals. And then I want to kind of talk about what I was talking about with Denver. So I don't think Denver needs to make a move. I'm just saying for Denver, like, you have to kind of wait a few seasons. Jamal Murray is kind of fringe all-star. He's not really an all-star yet. But, like, I think he can be an all-star. Does he deserve it this year? I unfortunately cannot give it to him because of the fact that he's in the West, and the West already has a lot of great point guards that deserve to be all-stars. So I cannot give the Nuggets a second all-star. I mean, Jokic is an all-star, but I can't give him a second one, unfortunately. But for Denver, I mean, I just don't want to. I wouldn't break up your core though to go get like another player this season. I'm saying for Denver, I think you got to wait like 2 years for you to say like, yeah, we're legitimately real contenders here. I know a lot of fans will go against me with that, but in my opinion, I don't think Denver's going to finish at the top of the West. I think they're going to get a top 4 seed. I don't know what it's going to be, but whatever seed they get, I actually think they're going to lose first round. I know it's kind of a hot take, but the thing with Denver is that they're so young. They're every single player is young. Jokic is young. Jamal Murray, Gary Harris, they're all young. The only real veteran on that team is basically Paul Millsap. And Millsap's not really an all-star anymore. He's getting older, so he's kind of doing less things. And I understand that for most of the season, you haven't had Isaiah Thomas all season. Will Barton's been out for a good amount of the season. You still haven't had Michael Porter Jr. I understand that. But I think when it comes down in the playoffs, just the fact that they don't have experience yet, I think they will lose first round, even if they have home court advantage. And I know the altitude's going to give them some advantages, but I actually don't think they're going to be able to get past first round. Because if you think about it, let's say they finish third, which is legitimate. I think Denver can easily finish third. I have them like at fourth, but if Denver finishes third, like they could face San Antonio Spurs 6, and just the Spurs in the playoffs. Like, I know a lot of people say they're like a regular season team, but I mean, you have DeRozan and Aldridge, both who've already been in a lot of playoff experience or situations, and they have a lot of experience. And it's a Popovich run system. Like, I just can't see the Spurs just easily giving it up to Denver. And in the playoffs, they're gonna slow things down, which in the playoffs a lot of games slow down, and the Spurs are just gonna pound everything into the post because you're not gonna be able to guard Aldridge, and they're gonna wear the Nuggets down. I mean, I think the Spurs would win that series, and I know it's kind of a hot take, but I'm just saying that for Denver, I can't really give them a lot right now. I can't support them a lot right now for them to be making the Western Conference Finals. But, that could easily change. But I just think due to lack of experience, it's going to really come down. It's going to not allow Denver to go past the first round this season, unfortunately. But they've had a fantastic season, especially Jokic. He's really impressed me. So that's kind of that. I guess this is kind of like the transition into talking about each conference. I do want to talk about the Boston Celtics because, my goodness, they are struggling, and I am officially concerned. I've been kind of saying, like, I'm a little bit concerned. Like, I'm officially a little bit concerned. Yeah, I'm really concerned now. I am officially concerned with the Boston Celtics this season, and if anything, they need to make a move. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know what it is, but Danny Ainge better have something up his sleeve because, man, they're just struggling. They lost tonight again to the Magic, I believe, and there's just a bunch of stuff going on right now. Brad Stevens isn't looking too great of a coach all of a sudden. I know it's hard just trying to get all these guys reacclimated into the lineup with all these expectations. you have so much talent on that team. It's just like you need to figure out the pecking order, which I don't think they really have yet. Besides that, Kyrie Irving's number one, so that makes sense. But you got to figure out the rest. Gordon Hayward's still trying to come back, so he's not 100%. Jason Tatum hasn't really taken that humongous leap, but he's been solid. But he's shooting worse this season because he's not shooting a lot of catch and shoot shots. He's shooting a lot of off the dribble shots, which I think Tatum needs to go back to being a catch and shoot type of guy. I think that's where he excels, especially in the corner. Jaylen Brown just hasn't looked very good this season from both sides of the court. Marcus Morris Sr. has been helpful, but he's also like taking away minutes from Tatum and Brown. It's like, man, I mean, you deserve to play, but you're playing very well, but you can't do some of the things that Tatum and Brown can also do, but they just haven't done it all season. Terry Rozier has been a shell of himself, so I'm just shocked that the bench isn't doing well at all. It's shocking. I officially right now, I mean, if it keeps up like this, which I don't know if it will, Kyrie Irving is kind of like talking to the team a lot, saying like we need to fix this and all this and that. So if they can turn it around, awesome. But man, if you just look at the Raptors, if you look at the Bucks, if you look at the 76ers, they're all just, well, actually the 76ers are kind of losing, but the Bucks and the Raptors, man, they're just pulling away, and they absolutely deserve to be in Eastern Conference Finals, like the Bucks and Raptors, and I would love to see that. I think you have two MVP candidates there with Kawhi and Giannis. You have another All-Star on each team, Kyle Lowry and Chris Middleton, in my opinion. But they're both really athletic teams, and I would really like to see that type of series for Eastern Conference Finals, but who knows? And then 76ers, they're kind of trying to figure things out. And I've been saying that the 76ers, it's not this season, it's next season. I think the 76ers will obviously get past first round, potentially get past the second, but for some odd reason they can't beat the Celtics whenever they face them. So I'm kind of concerned about that. And if they face the Pacers, I think they win. If they face them second round, so we'll see about that. I unfortunately don't think the Pacers are really a legitimate contenders. Because I had it that the top four teams in the East, which was the Bucks, Raptors, 76ers, and Celtics, they're legitimate contenders, but I would kind of take the 76ers out of that in just saying that I think they're next season, but they can win it this season. I'm starting to take the Celtics out of it, but there are still four powerhouses in the East. I don't have Indiana in those powerhouses category. It's just this simple to me. It's the fact that Victor Oladipo is not Giannis, Victor Oladipo is not Kawhi, Victor Oladipo is not Joel Embiid, Victor Oladipo is not Kyrie Irving. It's just that simple, in my opinion. And the fact that the Pacers don't have a second star, that also kind of hurts them, because if you look at the other teams, it's like the Raptors, they have Kyle Lowry, the Bucks, they have Chris Middleton, the 76ers have Jimmy Butler and Ben Simmons, the Celtics have Gordon Hayward, Al Horford, who, granted, I don't think either of them could be all-stars, but they can be all-stars. They can play like all-stars. The Pacers, their second best player is debatable, and that's like Miles Turner, question mark, but Domantas Sabonis is outplaying him this season, in my opinion. You got guys like Bogdanovich there, who's solid, but he's not a star whatsoever. So I think it's just the fact that the Pacers lack the firepower to keep up with the other four top teams in the East. And after that, it's just a coin toss between anybody else, really. Cavs are out, obviously. Bulls are not making it, unfortunately. But between like the Hornets, the Pistons, the Magic, the Wizards, who are now back in it, which is insane to me. The Nets, the Heat, anybody could take those last three spots. So we'll just kind of see how that works out. It drives me insane that the 14th team in the Western Conference has a better record than all the teams out of the playoffs in the Eastern Conference right now. So that just shows that the West is just that much better than the East. But I do think the East has a chance of winning the championship this season. if the Warriors just don't, if they're just not so dominant. But who knows? I obviously I still think the Warriors are gonna win the championship. But it just kind of reminds me though that I had this argument one time on Twitter with somebody, and I was saying how the Lakers are not gonna win 50 games because the fact that the LeBron now has to face Western Conference foes every single night, and this person like replied to me saying like, "Oh, we have to face the Sacramento Kings and the Dallas Mavericks and the Phoenix Suns, and those are scary, scary teams, and there's absolutely no way the LeBron can beat those teams." And I'm just like, yeah, Phoenix, I'll give him that, but then now look at it. I knew Dallas was going to be better. I mean, you signed DeAndre Jordan, you got Luka Doncic. I mean, guys are just going to develop into better players. So I'm like, Dallas is going to be better, and Dallas is better than a lot of teams in the East. Look at the Kings. They're a playoff caliber team. The Grizzlies, they're a playoff caliber team. And these were teams that are at the bottom. But I'm like, they're going to be better. That's just how it is. But let's look at the East then. Hawks, are they better than the Dallas Mavericks? No. Are they better than the Kings? No. Better than the Grizzlies? No. New Orleans? No. Let's look at how about the Cavs? They're not better than those teams. The Bulls are not better than those teams, clearly. The Magic, I could argue they're not better than those teams. The Wizards are sure not better than those teams. So it's very clear though that the Western Conference is the better conference. And it's also the kind of reason why I'm saying that the Lakers are not going to win 50 games, because not to mention LeBron is out, but I mean, LeBron in the East, he faced easy foes. Like it was just simple for him to come in and like, yep, I'm just going to dominate this game. We're going to win. Even if he had a okay team with them. But in the West, it's a different story. I mean, the West, you play a different style, but it's tougher opponents. That's just how it is. I mean, look at the all-star discrepancy. Like, you can pick so many guys from the West that could be all-stars, but a lot of them are going to get snubbed. When in the East, I was kind of having trouble. And it's like, because the fact that there are guys that are playing well, but they're not in the playoff picture, so it's kind of tough for me for the East. So all-stars, for this is how I'm going to wrap up this video. I'm not gonna really say who my all-stars are. I mean, obviously I think we should all have LeBron obviously in it, and like guys like Giannis. So I think we kind of already know who's gonna be in it, in our starters. But my two things are this: thank goodness, fans only account for 50% of the starting lineup vote. Like, my goodness, man. Derrick Rose, as much as he deserves to be an all-star, as like him playing, coming back, as a person, everything like that. I mean, you can't disrespect any of these other guards in this league. You just can't disrespect a guy like Damian Lillard and put Derrick Rose over him. That you just can't do that. I'm sorry. I love Derrick, but he's having a great year. I think he could be sixth man of the year. But all-star, I'm sorry, I can't have you there. And I don't think the media and the players are gonna vote him into the starting lineup. So, he's getting all these votes. He's right behind Steph Curry in the guards voting, but I'm sorry, I just can't. And I'm a Bulls fan. So it's like, as much as I want to say Derrick absolutely deserves to be an all-star game, it's like I can't. You can't disrespect these other guards in the league. Luka Doncic, same thing. I will say this right now. I do not have Luka Doncic as an all-star this season. And it's mostly just due to the fact, like, again, you can't disrespect these forwards in this league. I know I'm just kind of repeating myself, but there are just so many guys that you just can't just take away. You just can't take them out and just put in Doncic. Like, you just can't do that. There is a wild card spot in my list that I'm just kind of like really changing. It's kind of just like between like four guys, but I don't have Doncic in that race for that last wild card spot. I think Doncic is having an incredible year, but he's going to be rookie of the year by far, easily. No doubt about it. But I cannot have him as an all-star, unfortunately. So I will just kind of say that. But I am interested to see how the coaches vote for the reserves. There are some people that absolutely deserve to be all-stars, but I don't think they're gonna be picked by the coaches, unfortunately. And what I also don't want to see is the Warriors getting 4 guys. If Draymond Green is an all-star, there's something wrong with this league. And I don't want to hear it if Steven Adams gets picked, because Draymond Green, he averaged like 11, 7, and 7, which, they're good numbers, but I'm sorry, I can't have you as an all-star. I know he's a defensive player, probably one of the best, but you can't be an all-star. But then, when Al Horford's picked, he's averaging 15, 8, and 6. Everyone's getting out of him. He's like, oh, Al Horford can't be an all-star. He's only averaging 15 points per game. I'm like, well, did you complain about Draymond? He's only averaging 11 and less rebounds. Like, it drives me insane what people think. So that's the other thing. Draymond Green does not deserve to be an all-star. And to be honest, I don't think Klay is going to be an all-star this season either. The way he's been kind of struggling this season, but I think the Warriors obviously deserve 2, and they're going to be both in the starting lineup, but I don't think they deserve 4. It's not the way that Klay and Draymond have played. They don't deserve it, in my opinion. But I'll be making another video about that. And actually, before I wrap up this video, I want to say congratulations to Jim Boylen on getting an extension signed today. I tweeted out congratulating him, but I also kind of tweeted out saying, like, I have some mixed feelings right now about it. If you know me, if you've been watching the channel, I've been praising Jim Boylen a lot. I love what he's doing. But if you watch King of the Fourth Quarter, he is not a fan of Jim Boylen, and rightfully so. There have been I have been like calling out Jim Boylen on some things. Also, there are some things that I think that need to be addressed in his style of play, his system, and all that. My thing is this, everyone's saying we didn't give Fred a chance. I think, that's a valid argument in a sense that yes, he didn't get to coach an entirely healthy roster, but he had 3.5 years to show that he can actually coach an NBA team very well, no matter who's on that team. Even if it's not up to your style of play, you still have to coach that team to victories. He did not do that. So everyone's a lot of people are not fans of Jim Boylen right now. I'm a fan of his defensive system. I like his coaching style of that everyone's held accountable. Even if you're the best player on the team, you still don't get away with things. No shortcuts. I like that about him. I like the idea of half-court sets, make teams guard you for 24 seconds. And I like the idea of playing inside out, which he talks about a lot. There are some things, though, I'm kind of like, you got to change this. And I think he'll be able to adjust. Remember, this is just one extra season for Jim Boylen's contract, and it's only partially guaranteed. So the Bulls can also get out of that contract if they need to. Jim Boylen, he's playing at a slower pace, so I'm fine with that in a sense, but it's like there are times where I'm like, you need to push the ball right here and go. You have numbers, and he doesn't do it. He tells Chris Dunn to slow down, which I kind of disagree with it at times. So I think that can be changed. Obviously, the defense, like I said, I love his defensive system. He really is. He really stresses the importance of defense, which I love. There are times though where like we just kind of switch everything, and I'm like, I can't. It's hard for me to watch that because then you got guys guarding guys that they don't know the scouting report that well. So I don't really like that idea, but I think that will change. And my last thing with Jim Boylen is this. What I've been seeing a lot is that the coaching staff and him, they coach and make adjustments to adjust to the opposing team. What I wish would happen is this, that Jim Boylen would make the opposing team adjust to his game plan. What I like thinking about is this, like the Thunder, for example. They are one of the best defensive teams in the league. You know their identity. Their identity is defense. They're gonna lock you down. They're gonna play good defense on you. They're gonna get out in transition. They're gonna score the ball on you. via fast break, athleticism, and obviously the two best stars, Russell Westbrook and Paul George. Opposing teams, they have to adjust for that. They have to game plan for the Thunder's top defense in the league. They have to game plan for Russell Westbrook and Paul George, who can just dominate the offensive end. They have to be aware of the athleticism and their ability to get on transition. For the Bulls, it's almost like they're trying to adjust to the other team. For example, against Utah tonight, they're making adjustments to stop Donovan Mitchell in the pick and roll. What I would like to see happen is Jim Boylen start making an identity for the Bulls that the other teams have to adjust to his game plan. Whether that's put Markin in the post or having Zach come off screens, whatever it is, I kind of want to see an identity in the Bulls so that, one, the players that in the Bulls system are comfortable and know the system very well, but then two, it makes the opposing team adjust to his game plan. And I think that will make just the team have more consistency. Because if you're constantly adjusting to the opposing team, you're putting yourself in a bad situation because then you're doing different things each game. If you do consistent things each game, like it could be a staple in every single game that we play. Then you make the opposing team adjust to you, which then gives you the advantage. So I think with a training camp, and this is what I'm saying with a fair chance with Jim Boylen, he got put into this situation as head coach in the middle of the season. So he didn't have a training camp to get guys ready to play in this type of system. He's making guys understand the system on the fly. And in now this league of that we don't really practice a lot, it's hard for guys to adjust to a game plan. So I want to see how this team is next year after a training camp with Jim Boylen, and then I want to evaluate the decision, which the Bulls front office will also do. We still haven't heard a lot from Gar Forman, which, if you've been hearing it from me, that I think he doesn't deserve to be in this job. I think John Paxson has done a pretty good job, but again, we will be rating the front office come this offseason and the moves they make, the draft, and everything like that. So I'm looking forward to the Bulls' future, as I keep saying. I just want to build good winning habits, not only on the court, which I think Boylen's doing well at doing for the players and developing the players, but also make winning decisions via front office and stuff like that. So on that, thank you guys for watching the latest episode of the Duncan White NBA podcast. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to my channel for more NBA content, TheSlamDuncan. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Duncan_White14. Unfortunately, the Bears are out of the playoffs. I am not blaming Cody Parkey for that game because it was blocked, but Bears also have some moves they need to make offensively for their offseason. So this is a basketball channel though, so not gonna talk a lot about football. But thank you guys so much for watching. This is Duncan White signing off for now.